The belly fat you gained after 60 is not the same fat you had before. That is not a guess. That is biology. And it is the reason that everything you have tried in the last few years has not worked the way it used to. Cutting calories, walking more, giving up bread. Maybe you lost a little weight overall, but the belly stayed, because you were treating new fat with old solutions. Here is the part nobody tells you. This new belly fat that comes after menopause has a completely different nature. It sits deeper, it behaves differently, and it responds to different inputs. 5 specific inputs, 5 specific foods, and one of them will genuinely surprise you. Today, I am going to give you all 5. Each one has real research behind it, specifically in women over 60. Not general weight loss research, research on postmenopausal women and this specific kind of belly fat. I'm Dr. William Harrison. Stay with me for food number 5, because it is the one that makes no sense on paper, and yet the research is impossible to argue with. I want to tell you about a woman I'll call Marion. Marion is 62. She has been active her entire life. She walked every morning through her 50s. She watched what she ate. She was never particularly heavy. Then, somewhere around 58, something shifted. Her waist got thicker. Not her hips, not her thighs. Just her waist. And nothing she tried touched it. She cut portions. She walked more. She tried cutting carbohydrates for 3 months. The scale moved a little sometimes. The belly barely changed. She told me, "I look at photos from 5 years ago and I can see exactly where it's different. I'm doing more than I ever did and it just sits there. I don't understand what's happening to my body." Marion wasn't doing anything wrong. Her body had changed the rules without telling her. She was working harder at something that no longer worked the way it used to. If that sounds familiar, hit subscribe right now, because what I'm about to explain changes how you see this problem completely, and once you understand it, the 5 foods make perfect sense. Here's what actually happened to Marion's body after menopause, and why it matters for every woman watching this. Before menopause, your body stored most of its fat in your hips and thighs. That fat is just under the skin. It's the fat you can pinch. After menopause, as estrogen drops, your body changes where it puts that fat. It starts storing it deeper, inside your belly, around your organs. This is a completely different kind of fat. It doesn't sit under your skin. It sits deep inside. You cannot see it easily. You cannot pinch it, but you can feel it. Your trousers feel tighter at the waist even though you haven't gained much overall weight. Your silhouette shifts from the shape it used to be, and nothing you try seems to move it. Here's the important part that most women never hear. This deep belly fat is not passive. It is active. It produces chemicals that travel through your bloodstream and cause inflammation all over your body. It makes your cells less sensitive to blood sugar, which makes it harder to lose weight anywhere else. And it responds very differently to food than the fat you had before. Cutting calories helps a little, but it doesn't target this specific kind of fat effectively. And that's why Marion kept trying and kept being disappointed. This new fat needs a different approach, and 5 specific foods are that approach. Let me walk you through each one, including why it works and how to actually use it in your week. The last one is the one nobody sees coming. Stay with me for that. Food 1. Green tea. 2 to 3 cups of green tea every day does something specific to deep belly fat that coffee and other drinks simply don't do. Green tea contains a compound that tells your fat cells to start burning stored fat for energy instead of holding on to it. At the same time, it reduces the inflammation that deep belly fat produces. So, it's working on both sides of the problem at once. Less storing, less inflammation. A clinical trial tested this specifically in postmenopausal women over 12 weeks. The women did not change their diet or exercise beyond adding daily green tea. At the end of 12 weeks, deep belly fat had reduced measurably. Not dramatic overall weight loss, but specifically the deep abdominal fat. That distinction is exactly what matters for this conversation. And there is something else worth knowing about green tea specifically. It is the most studied single food for visceral fat reduction in postmenopausal women in the entire research literature. More studied than almost any supplement, any diet approach, any other natural intervention for this specific kind of fat in this specific age group. That is not a marketing claim. That is simply the volume of published research. 2 cups a day is all it takes. How to use it? 2 to 3 cups a day, brewed from real tea bags or loose leaf. Not bottled green tea drinks from the supermarket which contain barely any of the active compounds. Brew with hot water, not boiling water. Boiling destroys what makes it effective. Morning and afternoon work well. Simple, inexpensive, and consistent. Food 2. Salmon and fatty fish. Salmon, sardines, and mackerel do something very specific in your belly that most people don't expect from eating fish. The fats in these fish act like a chemical message to your body that says, "Stop filling up the belly." They specifically reduce the activity of a signal in your abdominal area that tells your body to store fat there. The result is that your body stores less fat in that deep abdominal space and more in places that are less metabolically damaging. A large review of multiple studies confirmed that eating fatty fish regularly reduces deep belly fat and waist measurement in postmenopausal women. The effect was strongest in women who had more to lose, and it was specifically the deep fat that moved, not just overall weight. How to use it: 2 to 3 portions a week. A portion is roughly the size of your palm. Grilled, baked, steamed, or in a salad. The cooking method doesn't significantly change the benefit. If eating fish 3 times a week genuinely isn't possible for you right now, a fish oil capsule daily is a reasonable alternative. But actual fish first when you can. If this is already making more sense than what you've been told before, subscribe right now. Because every week on this channel we go further into what actually works for women over 60. Not what worked for someone else at a different age and a different hormonal stage of life. Food 3. Berries, blueberries, blackberries, cherries. The darker the color, the better. Here is something remarkable about these fruits that most people don't know. The deep color in berries comes from compounds that have a very specific job in your body. They change the behavior of deep belly fat cells. Deep belly fat cells, left alone, are programmed to keep growing and keep producing inflammation. These berry compounds interrupt that programming. They slow those cells down. They reduce the inflammation they produce. Over time, the belly fat stops being as aggressive. A study tested 1 cup of mixed berries daily in postmenopausal women over 16 weeks. The result was measurable reduction in deep belly fat specifically. The researchers were clear that the berries were working on the abdominal fat in particular, not just overall body composition. That kind of targeted effect matters enormously for women in this age group. How to use it? 1 cup every day. Fresh when in season. Frozen the rest of the year, which works just as well because freezing keeps all the active compounds completely intact. Add them to yogurt, blend them into a morning drink, or eat them straight. The key is daily, not occasional. 1 good week doesn't move this. Consistent daily intake over weeks does. Food 4. Broccoli and cruciferous vegetables. This one is the most specific to what happens after menopause, and the one most women never expect to see on a belly fat list. Think of it this way. After menopause, even though your estrogen has dropped overall, some still circulates in your body. And your body processes that remaining estrogen in one of 2 ways. Think of it like a fork in the road. One path is protective. The other path leads to more belly fat storage and more inflammation. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and cabbage contain compounds that physically push your body toward the protective path. Every time you eat them, the result is less of the estrogen signaling that drives belly fat storage after menopause, even without changing your overall estrogen level. This is the most specific and overlooked mechanism for why belly fat keeps accumulating after 60, and broccoli addresses it directly, meal after meal. How to use it: 3 to 5 servings a week. Lightly steamed, roasted, or eaten raw are all fine. Just avoid boiling for a long time, as that weakens what makes them effective. 1 extra portion of broccoli or Brussels sprouts on your plate 3 times this week is a genuine and meaningful start. Food 5. Walnuts. This is the one that surprises almost everyone. Because when you think of losing belly fat, walnuts don't come to mind. They're high in fat, they're high in calories. Your instinct is probably to avoid them, or at least limit them. That instinct in this case is wrong. Here's why. Walnuts contain a very specific combination of plant-based fats and antioxidants that work directly inside deep belly fat cells to reduce inflammation and change how those cells behave. In simple terms, they calm the deep belly fat down. They make those cells less active, less inflammatory, less stubborn. A 6-month study followed postmenopausal women who added 1 small daily handful of walnuts to their normal diet. Nothing else changed. At the end of 6 months, the women who ate walnuts had less deep belly fat measured by scan. Their total weight had changed minimally, but the distribution of fat in their bodies had shifted. Less deep, less abdominal. The walnuts had quietly been changing where fat was sitting, without adding to overall body weight. This surprises people because it contradicts what we've been told about calories and fat. But this is specifically how deep belly fat responds differently than other fat. The calorie math doesn't tell the whole story here. How to use it: 7 to 8 whole walnuts daily, about a small handful, roughly 30 grams. As an afternoon snack instead of crackers or biscuits. On top of your morning yogurt, chopped into a salad. Other nuts are good for you in general, but the specific combination of compounds in walnuts that produces this belly fat effect is not the same in almonds, cashews, or others. Walnuts specifically. Before we get back to Marion, 2 things that quietly block all 5 of these foods from working. First, heavily processed foods eaten regularly alongside them. Packaged snacks, fast food, refined sugars, things that spike blood sugar sharply and repeatedly. These 5 foods cannot outrun a daily diet built around those choices. They work best when they are replacing processed options, not sitting next to them at the same table. Second, consistent poor sleep. Sleeping fewer than 6 hours a night consistently increases deep belly fat storage on its own, regardless of what you eat. Your body produces more of the hormones that drive belly fat when you're sleep deprived. If sleep is a regular problem for you, the food protocol helps, but it has to work harder to overcome what the sleep deprivation is adding back. Work on both together if you can. Let's go back to Marion. Once she understood that her belly was responding to a different kind of signal, she changed what she ate rather than how much. Green tea replaced her second coffee every morning. Salmon twice a week became a fixed appointment in her weekly meals, not something she did when she remembered. A handful of walnuts in the afternoon instead of crackers. A cup of frozen berries in her morning yogurt without fail. Broccoli on her plate at least 3 times a week, roasted with a little olive oil, which she now actually looked forward to. 3 months in, she told me something I have heard many times since. She said, "The number on the scale has barely moved, but my trousers fit differently. Something is shifting exactly where I wanted it to, and I'm eating more than I was a year ago when I was trying to eat less and getting nowhere." The scale doesn't tell the deep belly fat story. How your clothes fit does. And what you eat tells that story more than how much you eat. That distinction matters enormously after 60. So here's what I want you to do this week. Pick one of these 5 foods. Just one. Add it every single day for 2 weeks, then add a second. Consistent daily intake over 2 to 3 months is what the research shows actually moves deep belly fat. Not one good week followed by a less good week. Leave a comment telling me which food you're starting with this week. And share this video with a woman you know who has been doing everything right and still can't shift the belly. She may simply not know that the rules changed after 60, and that different rules need different food. Subscribe for more honest, practical conversations like this one. I'll see you in the next video. One last thought before you go. This is not a diet. There are no portions to measure here, no meals to give up. You are simply adding 5 specific foods to whatever you are already eating. That is the entire ask. The research does not show these foods working through restriction. It shows them working through addition. You add them consistently. They do their work. The deep belly fat gradually shifts. Not overnight, but measurably over weeks and months, in exactly the place you've been trying to move it.